Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews 11, verse 25. Hebrews 11:25. Don't get comfortable when you find it, because we're going to be all over the Bible. Hebrews 11, verse 25. This, of course, is talking about Moses. He says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. So that tells you something. There is pleasure in sin for a season. So let's find out about the happiness of wickedness, the pleasure of sin. Because the Bible says there is pleasure in it. It just says it's for a season. Now, if you've not read all the fine print, you've locked yourself into a deal you can't get out of. So let's get all the fine print on it, find out if we want to sign up for that deal. Psalms chapter 17. Psalm 17. First thing we'll say about the wickedness of, or the happiness of wickedness, is that it's limited to this lifetime. And we'll get further limits on it as we go. But just to start with, it's limited to this life. Psalm 17, verse 14. From men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. They may get some happiness, but they won't have happiness for eternity. If all the happiness you got, if every day you lived on this earth was happy, it's going to be just a drop in the bucket compared to eternity. Had you rather suffer some affliction on this side and have happiness for eternity? Imagine this. I don't know how far back you can remember. As far as my memory goes back is my great-great-grandfather. But imagine if I had been alive for his whole lifetime, my grandfather's whole lifetime, my dad's whole lifetime, my whole lifetime, my kid's whole lifetime. That's only 3 or 4 generations. Eternity is going to be that multiplied by billions upon billions with no end. That's a long time. I'd rather have the happiness there. Now, you'll get happiness in this life too, but let's keep reading. Look at Luke chapter 16. Luke 16:25. Let's find out about somebody who thought they had happiness in this life. They died, and they didn't have happiness in eternity. Luke 16:25. But Abraham said, Son, that's not a derogatory remark. That means he's another Jew. Abraham is the father of the Jews. We would use it as derogatory. Boy, son. That's not how he's using it here. Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. Moses said, I'm going to flop that thing around. I'd rather, if I'm going to see any torment, I'd rather see it on this side of the grave than for eternity. And that's a good choice. The other thing we see about the happiness of wickedness is that it's short. It doesn't last very long. Job chapter 20, verse 5. Job 20, verse 5. You might sign up for some wickedness thinking it'll promise happiness, not read all the fine print, and it's like going to Disney World waiting in line for 6 hours to get on the ride that lasts 3 seconds. What was all that about? It's short-lived. Job 20, verse 5. That the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Okay, don't sign up for wickedness. It promises happiness, and it lasts for just about as long as the ink is drying on the paper, because it won't last long. It's short. Another thing about it is it's uncertain. Luke chapter 12, verse 20. Luke 12, verse 20. You can't really be sure that whatever wickedness you're signing up for is going to actually produce whatever pleasure you think it promises. Luke 12, verse 20. How much do you really trust the devil to fulfill his contracts? I wouldn't. Luke 12, verse 20. But God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? Hey, you think you got it good right now, and you got everything you want, and you're making big plans for happy life and good times in the future? Wait a minute. God says you're going to drop dead tonight. Then what? We got to think beyond the grave, because you never know when your time to come is. And there's something that happens after the grave, and it lasts forever. James chapter 4. James 4, verse 13. James 4:13. We're just having a little Bible study tonight. This is not really a sermon or anything.
You're just trying to wait for the ice cream to melt.
That's right. And we've only got about 50 verses, so we're good. James 4, verse 13. Go to now, ye that say, Today or tomorrow we will go into such a city, and continue there a year, and buy and sell and get gain. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time, and vanisheth away. That's men. Men make plans, they plot, they scheme, but some of them don't work out because they don't make it. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can plot and plan for tomorrow, but tomorrow may dictate to us what's going to happen. You don't know. So don't sign up for sin based on a future date on your calendar, because you don't know what's in the future. The other thing about it is it's in vain. It's worthless. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 1. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 1. Ecclesiastes is Song of Solomon, seeking to find pleasure as a humanist. Not from God's point of view, from 100% flesh's point of view. Here's the conclusion he came to. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 1. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 1. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. I said in mine heart, Go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. Once I reached what I thought was pleasure, I looked back and I said, that was not worth it. That was as empty as it could be, and I built it up in my mind as being some great thing. Then I got it and I was like, oh, this is no big deal. And imagine the life you have to waste to find out the pleasure of sin is vanity. It's empty. You're still in Ecclesiastes. Look at chapter 7, verse 6. Chapter 7, verse 6. A lot of times, my dad taught me this early on. He had a little church, and we went on a visit, and there was a TV. Of course, we didn't have a TV, so if there was a TV anywhere, that was, magnet. Go see what that is. And they had on some late night show, and you could hear the laughing in there. And so I wanted to go see it. And I said, no, can't you tell that laughter? That's not a good laughter. You can tell the difference between holy laughter and unholy laughter. When people are laughing at wickedness, it sounds different. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 6. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. That laughter is not satisfying. There's nothing funny about sin. It's wicked. Okay, he's delivered from. Here's what is taken from the person who pursues wicked happiness: their wealth. The wealth says bye-bye. Now, a Christian's not worried about wealth anyway, but that's all the hope a worldly man has, is wealth. Status symbol. But it's going to be taken from him. Job 21:13. Job 21:13. The deathbed of a wicked man is a sad spot. He's worked his whole life to achieve and to gain and to, become somebody. And now he's being told he's going to end. It's over. What was all that for? Job 21:13. They spend their days in wealth and in a moment go down to the grave. Talk about a climax, a declimax. That's like running into a brick wall. Psalms 52 verse 7. Psalm 52 verse 7. Start out as the wicked, here's where you end up. Lo, this is the man that made not God his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. It doesn't last long. It's kind of like man's strength. Now, health is a blessing from God. If you're healthy, you can thank God for that. But it's like man's health. Man's not guaranteed health. And you're almost guaranteed the opposite of health. You're almost guaranteed that as you get older, you're going to start falling apart. Things are going to happen. You're not always going to have the health and the strength that you do as a young man or woman. I've got to fix something on my notes so I can read them. Okay, I'm almost there. Okay, now I can read. The happiness of wickedness is divided or is delivered from the man who thinks wealth is going to be happiness for him. It's not going to be. Also, their power is taken from them. They're counting on power. A lot of men their drink of choice is not alcohol, it's not drugs, it's power. The ability to play God. That's what it is. It's I have control. Control freaks. Job 21 verse 7. Job 21 verse 7. Wherefore do the wicked live, become old, yea, are mighty in power? Because that's God's grace. The reason God allows them to do that is because he's still giving them a chance to see something real. Him. Because that's all they're going to know on this side. If they don't turn to God, that is the utopia of their existence. Because once they hit the grave, they're going to see torment for the rest of eternity. So, the power is short-lived. In Psalms 37, verse 35, Psalms 37, verse 35, it says, I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Now, trees are one of the things that last for a long time on this earth. We've got some trees that have been here for hundreds of years. But guess what? There's not too many trees that have been around for thousands of years. And there's zero trees that have been around from eternity past. Well, we're going to be around for eternity forever. Well, that green, even if you could grow up and be wealthy and spread like a green bay tree, trees die. Trees are consumed by fire. Okay, don't count on being great like a fir tree or a green bay tree. Their worldly prosperity is taken from them. In Psalm 17, verse 14. Yeah, he was not.
He was not.
That's it. Short-lived. Their worldly prosperity is all they know. I mean, that's the best it gets for them. That's it. Psalm 17:14. From men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life. That's it, just this life. Whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasures. God's trying to do them good. You know, God even does the wicked good. That's not what we would do. We wouldn't do that way. If somebody's not living the way we want them to, it's not natural, not humanly natural to go do that person good. That's something God does. And as a Christian, you should begin to develop some of that characteristic. Jesus says, do good to them that evil entreat you. Okay? Do good to your enemies. Okay? That's something that is not natural to human flesh. That's supernatural. This man right here has been given some good, even though he didn't deserve it. They're full of children. That's supposed to be the heritage of the Lord. And they leave the rest of their substance to their babes. When they leave, it's gone. It profited them nothing, because they go out into eternity with zero. What a Christian does is he sends his inheritance on into eternity. And then for eternity, we live, rule, and reign with Jesus Christ. Now, that's a good deal. In Psalm 73, verse 3. Psalm 73, verse 3. Here's the best we can say about the wickedness of sin. Psalm 73, verse 3. For I was envious at the foolish, when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Okay, that's the way it seems by looking on the outside. Verse 7. Their eyes stand out with fatness. Bunch of fatties. They have more than heart could wish. Okay, well, it's the goodness of God that leads a man to repentance. Sometimes God does a man good, giving him space to repent. Don't judge the end by the means. For eternity, unless a man turns to God for eternity, he'll be in torment. So all the wealth and all the fat eyes on this side did him no good. Popular applause is what some people crave, and they get it. In Acts 12, verse 22. The problem with man's applause is it's like a wind. It picks up here, and then it's dead still, and over there it's picking up. You can't predict it. You don't know where it's going to come from. Applause. You can't. The fads and the fashions, they come and go just as fast as you can turn around. Acts 12:22. And the people gave a shout, saying, it is the voice of a God and not a man. Really? Like they would know? Man, don't listen for the applause of man. Man doesn't know anything. He's just as stupid as we are. We need to get our information from somebody that's bigger than a man. Jesus Christ right here. So if your happiness comes from man, it'll be just as short-lived as the men around you decide to give you pleasure, applause. And that's going to be very short-lived. Think about it in your life. How many people have you applauded for more than a year or two at a time? Not very many. Okay, that's the way you'll get it too. Gluttony is another good one that a man could enjoy. And that's about all he'll know, aside from what he can gain on his own if he's not seeking God. In Isaiah 22, verse 13. Isaiah 22, verse 13. You put all the pleasures of sin in perspective, in focus, and you suddenly realize, just like Solomon did, It's vain. It's empty. Isaiah 22:13. And behold, joy and gladness, slaying oxen, killing sheep, eating flesh, drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. Well, how about don't eat and drink? It doesn't matter what you do. Tomorrow you're going to be dead. There it is. That's the best that this world can offer. That's the most happiness that can come from wickedness, is a short-lived happiness, because tomorrow you die. In the scheme of eternity, man only lives for a day. In Habakkuk, that'll be a fun one for you to find. Habakkuk 1:16. Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah? No. Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah.
It's like 3 books from Malachi going away from. Just between-
Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. 5 books back from Matthew.
Yeah, something like that. Really close back.
Therefore they shall sacrifice unto their net. This is a fisherman. Habakkuk 1:16. Therefore they sacrifice unto their net. That's a fisherman. Throws a net, cast net, or probably a gill net or a seine net, and that's going to bring in the bacon. Only it's going to be fish, not bacon. I'd rather have fish than bacon any day. Okay, so now he's going to offer his praying, his praise to the net, as though the net was something special. They sacrifice unto their net, and burn incense unto their drag, because by them their portion is fat, and their meat plenteous. That's pretty short-sighted, isn't it? They're praising the net for bringing them fish. How about praising the one who made the fish? Wouldn't that be a little deeper than just the net that's going to break and I got to mend it? I got to buy another one every couple of years. That's a man living for the pleasure, the happiness of wickedness. It's short-lived, it's not very well thought out, and it doesn't take into consideration the full scope of the spectrum. Drunkenness is another way that men try to find pleasure in this life. Isaiah 5, verse 11. Isaiah 5, verse 11. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them. Alcohol is no substitute for happiness. Many a drunk is addicted, and they started out trying to get to the bottle to find happiness. And the bottle didn't offer happiness. It offered an escape, but it was a tormented escape. And now they're stuck there. And many of them, we've got a guy Tony, the bum that comes by the shop all the time. Worked with him now for 3 or 4 years, probably longer than that, 5 years. Stuck on the bottle, can't get off of it. Stuck.
It's really sad. He really is saved.
Yeah, he's saved. He's trapped. Trapped. I'm sure all of them, they thought there was going to be pleasure in the bottle. But it didn't give them pleasure. No, ruined life, ruined families, ruined. Watch out for what the devil offers in an advertisement, because he doesn't tell you the end result. Happiness from wickedness is very short-lived, and he doesn't tell you on the front end the price you're going to pay on the backside. Isaiah 56, verse 12. Here's the way the devil lies. Isaiah 56, verse 12. Come ye, say they, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink. And tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant. Isn't that what drugs offer? Okay, take this drug. That was a good one, but hey, you need to upgrade to cocaine. It's even a better one. Oh, that was good, but now you need some meth. Try this one. It's going to be better. It's going to be better. Tomorrow's going to be even more abundant. Get hooked on this. Get hooked on that. End result is not much better. It's much worse. That's wickedness. There's no lasting happiness to it. Vain pleasures. Job 21, verse 12. Job 21, verse 12. It says, they take the timbrel and harp and rejoice at the sound of the organ. This is one that applies to probably 99% of not just young people. They try to find happiness in music. Wicked music. You can identify wicked music real fast. Other than the more complicated ways that I could explain it, I'll not do that. There are some simple ways you can identify it. What's the message saying? That's who you're listening preach to you. Don't say you don't want to hear preaching, because the listening to the lyrics of words are a sermon. And you've yielded your members to that, and you've become servant to it by listening to it. If the words you cannot sing back to God, you had better not be listening to it. That's him right here. He's seeking music because it sounds light and gay and happy. There's a nice little beat going and gets his feet tapping. However, the words are saying something totally different. That's a simple way of knowing it. Just the words. We're not getting complicated tonight. Simple, simple. The words. What do the words say? They're preaching something. And people will spend hour after hour after hour listening to that trash. Yet, it's all you can do to get them to hear 1 or 2 hours of preaching. Yet they'll submit themselves willingly to listen to the message of the devil through music. There it is right there. They're seeking pleasure through the preaching of the devil with music. Isaiah 5, verse 12. Isaiah 5:12. And the harp and the viol and the tabret and the pipe and wine. Alcohol gets connected to wicked music pretty quickly. Are in their feast, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. Belteshazzar had that problem one night. He was throwing a big party. He had him some wine. He had some music going. And all of a sudden, God's hand popped out. Said, this is it, buddy. You're signing off now. And he died. The other thing we'll see is successful operations in Habakkuk, can't say that, Habakkuk 1:15. They think just because they pursue wickedness and they're able to accomplish it, they've done something. No, sir, the devil handed it to them, and God allowed it. Habakkuk 1:15. They take up all of them with the angle. They catch them in their net and gather them in their drag. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. Okay? He's pursuing bringing home the bacon, catching fish right here. Now, if that's the way you live, to put food on the table, you'd be happy about that. But here the problem is they're not seeking God in it. We saw earlier that what they were doing was worshiping the net, worshiping the drag as though that was God. And it seems like they're being successful at it. We find over there where the Israelites were worshiping the Queen of Heaven and baking cakes to her. And it seemed like everything was going well. People confuse God's mercy as though it was a blessing from the devil. The devil's not the one blessing you. It's God giving you mercy because he's not stomping you out yet. James chapter 5, verse 6. James 5, verse 6. People think the Christian life is too hard. I don't want to enjoy. I'd rather enjoy pleasure of sin than to suffer affliction. Well, the suffering ain't as suffering as you think it is, and the pleasure ain't as pleasure as you think that was going to be. James 5, verse 6. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. The just is not the one you have to answer to. Oh, you may have power over him. You may be able to put down another man and gain some kind of power and prestige from it. However, he's not your judge. There's one who stands judge for eternity, and you won't touch him. The next thing we'll see is in Esther chapter 5. The happiness of wickedness is marred by jealousy. Yes. Esther 5, verse 13. There's no real peace in the wickedness of happiness, in the happiness of wickedness. I am no poet. There's no real pleasure in it because you're always, it's like the rich man who's so scared to do anything. He's got everything in the world, an RV and a home full of treasures, but he can't go anywhere because somebody might break in and get it. What good did it do him to get it? He can't enjoy life. Here it is, Esther chapter 5, verse 13. Here, Haman has been rewarded. And here's his complaint. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. I see one thing that's discomforting to me. So all the praise from the king and all this lavishness that I've been getting, it should be enough to make him ignore one little Jew that won't bow to him. But yet, he says, all this goodness avails me nothing. It counts for zero if I find one unpleasant thing. The Bible says that nothing should offend us. We're not supposed to be easily offended. So we can put up with one little thing that doesn't offend us because we got something else greater and better that we can put our mind on. That's not the same with the wicked man. The wicked man, he's trying to manipulate everything to be to his pleasure, and he gets no pleasure because he's so worried about one little thing might discomfort him. It's often interrupted by God, by judgment. In Numbers 11, verse 33. Numbers 11:33. Here the children of Israel have come through the wilderness. God's been feeding them manna. And they did the same thing we would have done. We'd have been right in the crowd, yelling right with them. Bread again, manna again. Really? So they said, we want some quail. We want some flesh to eat. God says, okay, you want that? Let me hook you up. Numbers 11:33. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people. And the Lord smote the people with very great plague. Okay, watch out. Trying to derive happiness from what you conceive. In their mind, if they just had some meat to eat, they'd be happy. Okay, he'll give you some meat to eat. Ends up killing them. Now, I don't know if it was just a plague out of nowhere that God just smote them, or if they actually got some disease from eating the food. I don't know. Either way, that shows you we can't determine what happiness is. Let's let God do it. Suddenly, manna started looking a whole lot better. It's either eat this and before you can get it chewed, you fall over dead, or have another helping of manna. I'll sign up for manna. Job 15:21. Job 15:21. Many men get prosperity, but they get it through wicked means. And there's no comfort, happiness, or joy in that. Job 15:21. A dreadful sound is in the ears. In prosperity the destroyer shall come upon him. God is a revenger of wickedness. So if you use wickedness to gain happiness, don't be surprised if right on the heels of happiness is the destroyer coming to take it right away. Psalm 73, verse 18. Psalm 73, verse 18. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation? As in a moment. They are utterly consumed with terrors, as a dream when one awaketh. So, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about that. There's a whole lot in that verse. Just study that whole section out, and it'll be enough to do a 3-hour message on. There's a whole lot in that. One of the things we're seeing there is that God uses terror, and he uses dreams. You can't flee from God even with sleep. If he wants to haunt you, there's no place you can run to get away from him. Wickedness he repays, and he says he'll repay a man to his face. He's not scared of anybody. In Jeremiah 25, verse 10. Jeremiah 25, verse 10. Man couldn't have the ability to smile if God didn't allow it. God can wipe the smile off anybody's face anytime he feels like it. And here he's going to. Jeremiah 25, verse 10. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, and the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation, and an astonishment. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. He said, my people have gone away. They've strayed from me. They've worshipped other idols and things, trying to make themselves happy within themselves, and whatever the world told them to do, they started following that. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them a wake-up call. I'm going to take everything away, and I'm going to send them into captivity. These are God's people. This is not the heathen he's talking about. God's own people. I'm going to send them into captivity for 70 years. Whew. So, as a Christian, if you're saved, you're not excluded from this whole deal either. If we decide to get involved in wickedness because we want to enjoy some pleasure from it, Israel didn't get away with it. They're our example. We ain't going to either. He can snap his fingers, and everything you imagined as pleasure is desolate. It's gone. Man, how did it get so happy tonight? This leads to sorrow. What started out seeming as though it was going to be so much fun and happiness and all that stuff of getting involved in sin and finding some pleasure from it, actually does just the opposite. It turns into sorrow, regret, tragedy after tragedy. Proverbs 14. Proverbs 14, verse 13. Proverbs 14, verse 13. He says, even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. There's people that go out and start trying to find happiness through wicked means. And even while they're doing it, if they're saved, the Spirit of God is grieved. And there is a sadness even within their laughter that they can't mask. And they know it. And God's already determined the end of that thing is going to be heavy sorrow. heavy. That's scary. Should keep us away from wickedness. Now the happiness of wickedness leads to recklessness. It drives a man to even more and more wickedness. Wickedness is not content with you just having one little level of wickedness. Oh no, we got to increase this thing. Turn the volume up. You've just got on the ride. We're turning it as fast as we can get it. Isaiah 22 verse 13. Isaiah 22:13. And behold, joy and gladness, slaying oxen, killing sheep, eating flesh, and drinking wine. Wouldn't one of those been enough? No. They've got to add more to it, more to it, more to it, more to it. That's the way wickedness starts, and it's not content to stay at that level. You got to keep adding, do more, do this, do that. It's restless. It never ends. That's wickedness. It's a stumbling block to other Christians. Now, I know when you're seeking wickedness as though it's going to provide happiness, you're not worried about what other Christians think. But one day you will be. And maybe God will bring it to your mind at night. I don't know. Here he says in Psalm 73, verse 3. Psalm 73, verse 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. We've seen this verse before, but I'm going to show you something else about it. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. Now, what if that wicked man was actually a Christian? Now you got the wrong idea. Just like happens in Psalms chapter 2. He says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? How is it that some Christians get involved in pure wickedness? And it seems as though they have everything they could want. That's what David's saying right here. These people are getting away with doing whatever. Now, if that's maybe it's just a wicked Jew. Or maybe it's another Christian in our day and age who's doing some wicked things. And there's plenty of them you can see. And it looks like they're getting away with it. Hold on, it won't last. But in the meantime, before the boom falls, it gives other Christians the wrong idea. And especially a baby Christian who doesn't know the end is coming. They'll be fooled into following that mess. So, for your testimony's sake, and for those who watch, stay away from the pleasure of sin. It's a short-lived contract. Verse 16. Psalm 73:16. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. You really start thinking about it, it'll be painful. The wickedness that the world gets involved in, saved or lost, think about it with your brain. It's going to be so painful, not just here, but for eternity. That should suddenly give you a heart for them. You want to stop them from seeing that destruction and pain. You should. Jeremiah 12, verse 1. Jeremiah 12, verse 1. This is what happened to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 12, verse 1. He says, righteous art thou, O Lord, when I plead with thee. Yet let me talk with thee of thy judgments. Wherefore doth the way of the wicked prosper? Wherefore are they happy that deal very treacherously? Here, it looks like they're getting away with it. And Jeremiah says, hey, let's have a little chat here. How come I don't understand this judgment thing? It looks like the wicked are getting away with whatever they want to do. And judgment hadn't fallen. What's up with that? God works on a different time frame than we do. He really does. If I just put yourself back in the Old Testament for a second. Put yourself in the Old Testament. Imagine that we could live for 4,000 years. Nobody did, but let's just imagine we could. And we'll walk through the Old Testament. We watch Eve do her thing, and sin hits the earth. And poor Adam has to take the blame for it. No. But she's promised something. She's promised a deliverer, a seed that's going to come. That's the promise of Jesus Christ. The Redeemer is going to come one day. Okay, we're watching it. You know how long it takes for that thing to happen? Israel builds up as a nation. They go through one war, one turmoil after the next. Every king thinks, I'll be on the throne when the Messiah shows up. I'll be able to hand him the seat. And they don't. The kingdom split. Both sides go into captivity. They come back. They split again. Then Rome takes over. The whole thing is divided into 4,000 years. He says, oh, and then I just decided Jesus should show up. Wait a minute. You mean the promise you made 4,000 years ago, it's just now you remembered it? No, he said it was at the fullness of time. Just right on time. I didn't do it early. That'd be a waste of time. I didn't do it late. I'd be late. And me and Robert know that's wrong. He did it at the fullness, right on the dot. In Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13. Oh, that's my problem. What did I tell you? Habakkuk 1:13. Yes. Habakkuk 1:13. It says, Thou art of purer eyes than to behold evil. Thou canst not look on iniquity. Wherefore lookest thou upon them that deal treacherously, and holdest thy tongue when the wicked devour the man that is more righteous than he. Now that's the way that we're going to feel sometimes. We're going to feel, hey, the wicked man is making out okay. He's got everything he needs. And I'm trying to do right, and I don't. It doesn't seem fair. Sometimes it doesn't seem fair. But remember what we said about the fullness of time? God's a just God, and he's going to give exactly what's needed to whoever. We just got to hold on. Hang on. It's coming. It's already been worked out. It's just not been revealed yet. And in the meantime is the tough time. That's a hard time to view God as what he is. Now, notice in that verse, he says, Thou art of purer eyes than to behold evil. Okay. But then he goes around, within 2 sentences, he starts speaking evil. He starts accusing God of not being fair, not being just to the ungodly. That's his point. His point is, God, you should have destroyed the wicked, and you should have made me prosper. Okay? Well, you already set it up by saying God can't, he's got more pure eyes than to look at wicked people. We got to get a good view of ourselves first. Okay, we're wicked. There's nobody here, nobody, that could receive any kind of trouble that could strike and God not be justified in doing it. If you look at your life very closely, you've done enough iniquity and sin against a holy, righteous God that he's just in any punishment he could dish out. And he would be just in it. We need to realize he's done us good, way more, way better than what we deserve. Way better. And that's getting the right perspective. That'll help understand when the wicked aren't getting theirs. Sometimes we need to realize, hey, we aren't either. A lot of times God allows a man to see the end of the wicked. Now, if you'll hold on, before you sign a contract with the devil, look at the people who have signed his contract and find out what their end is. before you just fall headlong for his sales pitch. Psalm 73, verse 17. Psalm 73, 17. I've got to back up here and get the context. Psalm 73, 17. Back up to verse 3 and get, this is how it starts. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. Okay, so he looked out, he saw wicked people were doing good, and he said, wait, it was 2 and 2 aren't equal, and 4. Something's not right here. Drop down to verse 17. Until, this made it make all the sense. Until I went into the sanctuary, God, then understood I their end. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destructions, into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors, as a dream when thou awakest one awakest. So, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Okay, so it appears for a short time that the wicked get the overhand, or the upper hand. But if you'll hold on, if you'll live right, God will give you the eyes to see with understanding the end of the wicked. Don't go signing up for anything until you've studied it out. I gotta get, my throat is dry tonight. The millennial generation has one thing right. They overstudy everything. They're not going to buy a thing until they've seen 25,000 reviews on it. Okay, now, they don't do the same thing with life. They don't do that with the wicked vices that the world offers. They should. They should look at the end result. How many people have got involved in that and made it out okay? How many people have a happy life after that? They don't. But they should. And that's what God allows a Christian who will live righteous. He'll allow them to see the end result of what wickedness produces. All right. We're not supposed to envy the happiness of the wicked. We shouldn't envy it. Look at verse 1. Psalm 73, verse 1. He says there, truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. We don't have to worry about. Now this is where it gets tough. We don't have to worry about the wicked getting good. We've gotten good too. We've really been given very good things from God. Start enjoying the things God gave you instead of looking at what somebody else has got. That's covetous is what that is. Don't be covetous of the wicked. Leave them alone. Start focusing on all the good things God's given you that you really didn't deserve anyway. Reverse the numbers. Go to Psalms 37, verse 1. Psalms 37, verse 1. He says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Now, if that wasn't natural to do, he wouldn't have put the verse in there. But he knew the natural thing for a human, for this flesh to do, is start envying the wicked people who seem to be getting away with wickedness and seem to be having a good time with it. So God says, hey, slow your roll. Don't be envious of them. It ain't going to be so happy when I get done. So consider their end. In Amos 6, verse 1, God has a special warning. There's a special warning, and this word identifies a warning. A high priority warning from God. It's woe. Now, man would say, whoa, like wow. But if God's saying it, he's impressed himself. He says, woe to them that are at ease in Zion. They think they got everything they need. They think everything's going great. Woe to them that are eased in Zion. And trust in the mountain of Samaria, which are named chief of the nations, to whom the house of Israel come. Uh-oh. They said, watch out. Don't be trusting in things. Don't be looking at things as though that's going to make you happy. Things don't make anybody happy. Get that thing, and it won't be long before you need another thing. Things are just trash. Everything on this earth is a burn pile waiting to be ignited, because one day it's all going to melt with a fervent heat. That's what he says in 2 Peter. In Luke chapter 6, verse 25. Luke 6:25. We're in this Burger King age, where you get what you want right away. And the fast food joints have ruined everybody. They think they can get anything they want immediately. And that's not life. That's not reality. Reality is what you have to wait a long time for is better. Had you rather get fast food? Well, I don't know about young people nowadays. I never did like fast food, ever. The only fast food I would eat is Chick-fil-A. That's the only one growing up. And it was partly because of service, but a lot just because I didn't like the food. Just nasty food. But now, I like fancy restaurants. Somebody that go back there and cook, and you had to wait 30 minutes to, get your meal done right, and they bring it to the table. It tasted better. It's a better payoff when you wait. Same with life. Here he's saying, Luke 6:25. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Credit cards will teach you that quickly. You think you can buy with something you don't have money for and just charge and charge and charge and have a good time and get the pleasure from it until the bills start rolling in. Suddenly it ain't no more fun. That wasn't, I didn't get enough pleasure for this. And it ends up costing you way more than you thought it was going to cost. That's what God's saying. The same is true spiritually. Just because it looks like the world is getting pleasure out of wickedness, it's short-lived, and there's a high price tag associated with it. But it's not so with God. In Psalms 37, verse 35. Psalms 37:35. We've seen this verse before, but I want to show you the next one. Psalms 37:35. I've seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yet, yea, I sought him, but he could not be found. Where's Marilyn Monroe? She gone. Where's all the idols? We've had, I don't even know all their names. Where's Michael Jackson? He ain't no more. They're gone. They're just clicking off, one after the other. Said, you're going to look for these people that seem like they had it all, and they're not going to be. They're gone. You better find your happiness in something that lasts longer than this life, because you will too. Luke 12, verse 16. Luke 12, verse 16. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentiful. Okay, you know the story here. What's going to happen? He says, oh man, I've got everything made. I'm just making profit hand over fist. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build some bigger ones. And then I'll just keep making hand over fist all the money I can do and, have all the grain I could ever get. And Jesus shows up and said, slow your roll, buddy. You're going to be dead tomorrow. What then? Now, let's hold your place there. look at one other passage and notice the similarities. Luke 16. Luke 16, verse 19. Luke 16, verse 19. Jesus gives them another. This is not a parable. This is a life event. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a beggar named Lazarus, so forth, so on. You know the story. You see the common denominator here? It looked like the one guy that was making all the money and was rich and had everything that he could want. It was short-lived because he didn't get it from God. He got it from himself. Guess what? When himself ended, so did his riches, because himself provided it. Get something God gives you, and it doesn't end because neither does God. That's where you need happiness from. A couple of verses quickly, and then we'll close it. Numbers. No, not Numbers. Go to Daniel. Daniel chapter 5, verse 1.
I already wrote numbers down.
Well, you can go there. Go to Numbers 11:33, and no, y'all don't. He does. Numbers 11:33. Then you can go to Esther 5:9 to 11, and then we're going to go to Daniel 5, verse 1. Daniel 5:1. Belteshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Boy, it looked like he had it all made, didn't it? And he was the head bigwig in charge. Buddy, when he threw a party, everybody showed up, except for the one that mattered. Daniel wasn't anywhere near that party. He wasn't going in that mess. When tragedy struck, you know who they called for? Get Daniel out here. Now, hold true. Don't enjoy the pleasures of sin, because they won't be coming to you for the answers. When tragedy strikes, you won't be able to hold up your hand and say, I know the answer to this. You've already proved you're just as wicked as they are. Stay true to God. Be a Daniel. Let them call for you when trouble strikes. Now, Daniel makes it out of that thing. The rest of them die. It's an important lesson. And then you can look at Herod in Acts 12:21 to 23, but we've already gone too long, so I'll let you look that up on your own. All right, that's the happy good times that the Bible tells about the wicked. The wicked don't have any. What they think are happy good times are a mirage that are short-lived.